football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, we're going to dive into a couple things. Of course, the news about Kenny Golladay as the rumors are starting to circulate. And now this is really gaining traction. Now you're hearing things from Ian Rapoport. When you start to hear things from Ian Rapoport, you know it's for real. Now, we knew in the offseason last year that the New York Giants definitely had interest in Golladay. Well, now it has been confirmed, but not just that. At least according to Jordan Renan, and I'm going to pull up the tweet, Golladay is seeking out the New York Giants. I'm also going to jump into a couple of other things that I wanted to get into with you guys. One of them being Nate Solder, the other being the contract that we laid out yesterday with Leonard Williams. Of course, Leonard Williams signed on a 3-year deal with the New York Giants for $63 million, but the figures had not all come down yet. So I kind of want to go over it, and I want to tell you guys how I feel about it and some of the things that I think the New York Giants could do to try to manipulate the salary in the future if they feel fit. Also, I wanted to go over the Nate Solder reconstruction and tell you why I think Dave Gettleman did a fantastic job with this deal here with Nate Solder and why it was smarter rather than just cutting Nate Solder. Now, I don't know what the ramifications are on next year's cap. And when that news comes out, I'm sure I'll talk about it in a further video for Solder. But for this year, they broke even. That is right. Nate Solder will be making the same amount of money. This year, we're paying him the same amount for him to be on the team as if we were to cut him. And why is that such good news? Well, we would have had to use more money to bring in a swing tackle. So in essence, it gave the New York Giants more money to spend, not to mention Nate Solder is a leader on this football team. He's a former captain, and he's definitely a guy that could bring some experience to the two young tackles we have on this roster. Whether or not he starts, that remains to be seen. We don't know if he's going to come in football shape, but at a bare minimum, he should be able to serve as a swing tackle. And like I said, I saw people on Twitter saying we should have brought back Cam Fleming. Well, at this rate, it would cost us more because you were going to have to pay $10.5 to $8 no matter what. Fleming would have wanted at least $4 or $5 million, so we ended up saving $4 or $5 million rather than going out there and bringing in a guy like Cam Fleming, at least on this year's cap. But I wanted to jump into some of the things. First, we're going to go over the contract of Leonard Williams. 3-year deal, $63 million. Now, if you look right here, the cap hit this year, as we know, because of the shrunken salary cap, the cap for this year, if you look all the way at the top, is $11 million this year with a $45 million dead cap hit. 26.5 in the second year with a $34 million dead cap hit. And much like I said yesterday, the third year, the New York Giants left themselves some wiggle room in case things go south. Football's a game of injuries. It's very unpredictable. It's not like baseball. Baseball, you get the 10-year contracts. Football, we know that the average lifespan of a player is like 3 years on average, sometimes less actually. And the fact that, you know, it's a game of injuries. It's a game where you could regress. It's good, in my opinion, to always keep the contract short when possible, outside of maybe a quarterback and potentially a left tackle, which is a long-term position. This will take you right up until the age of 30 for Leonard Williams, and if he's still performing, the Giants can elect to extend him. Now, the one alarming thing about this contract is the second year, because like I said, the third year, if they feel like they could get out of it, it's a $7.5 million dead cap hit on a $25.5 million salary, meaning you would save $18 million on the budget. Now, the second year, we're not going to be able to get out of. No mistake about it. He will be $26.5 million if we don't make any provisions to that contract. Now, my guess is what the New York Giants may do if Leonard Williams produces this year, and by produce, I mean he has a year similar to this year. Maybe not necessarily 11.5 sacks. Maybe he's active, he creates sacks, gets 7, 8 sacks, is an instrumental part to this defense. Obviously, we want 20 sacks if we could get it, but a big part to this defense. The defense remains in a top 7 or 8 defense in the league, and Leonard Williams has a lot to do with it. The New York Giants may very well actually extend him on this deal to more evenly distribute the money. Give him a little bit more guaranteed money. Maybe that cap hit shrinks from 26.5 to 21, and you give him another year. Something like that. They will have that option to extend him and kind of stretch out the money for another year or two if they see fit, or they could just take the $25.5 million or $26.5 million hit against the cap next year when they had money to begin with to be able to spend, and, you know, figure it out that way. You can structure your contracts in a certain way if you want to re-sign players like Jabril Peppers. But regardless, if things go south, the Giants have the freedom to get out in 2 years. It's what I like most about that extension. Next thing we're going to talk about is I'm going to pull up a tweet from Dan Duggan, and then we're going to jump into the news about Kenny Golladay. But this from Dan Duggan regarding Nate Solder. Nate Solder's contract restructure is complete per source. Solder's salary will be cut to approximately $4 million, which will create $6 million in cap savings. Same savings as if he was cut. Expect Solder to serve as a swing tackle backup option if Barrett isn't ready to start at right tackle. So yeah, he's going to go into training camp. They're going to compete. And if they feel like Barrett's not ready, much like they started Fleming this year, they would start Solder. If they feel like Fleming's ready, Solder will serve as a backup for both Thomas and Barrett and a mentor. So I think that's the plan, but it saved us money on this year's budget. That was the most important thing. And you got a great locker room guy, a former captain, probably still will be the captain for this year's team. And I think it's really important for the New York Giants to have him back under these circumstances. Of course, if it didn't make financial sense, you were going to let him go. Like I said, I don't know what it means towards next year's cap. I'll let you guys know when I see it. Next thing we're going to pull up is this, the news about Kenny Golladay. And of course, I think you could tell I'm excited. Obviously, we all know the New York Giants need a weapon. Dave Gettleman came out in a press conference and said, we're well aware that Daniel Jones needs playmakers. Got you a playmaker yesterday with John Ross, but I think we all left a little bit to be desired. We all wanted a number one option, right? Some of you guys want 6 more receivers. I personally think if you get a number one, it would give you the freedom in the draft to go and get whoever you may want to get, whether it be Micah Parsons, whether it be Caleb Farley, whether it be Patrick Surtain, whether it be Rashawn Slater, or whether it be another weapon. But it would give the Giants the option to pick a number of guys. And I would guess if they got Golladay, they more than likely would not double up at the wide receiver position, being that they would fill that need. At that point, you'd have Kenny Golladay, you'd have Sterling Shepard, you'd have Darius Slayton, you'd have Saquon Barkley back, and you'd have Evan Ingram to go with the deep threat with John Ross. But this is what Ian Rappaport had to say. The Giants have been in talks with the Lions star free agent wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Source said, and expect them to bring him in for a visit prior to signing him to a deal. There is mutual interest. And when Ian Rappaport talks, I listen, one of the more credible insiders. So if that doesn't tell you that it's a strong possibility that Kenny Golladay could be a New York Giant, and this is the first time I felt this sure that this was a strong possibility, I don't know what will. He's going to meet with the New York Giants, and this could happen, I don't know, as soon as tomorrow. Maybe even tonight. I don't know when the meeting is. Next up from Jordan Renan, and this is going to make New York Giants fans excited. My understanding is that Kenny Golladay and the Giants have mutual interest. Golladay wants to be in New York and has been pushing to make this happen throughout the process. A good sign if the Giants like what they hear and from a potential visit. So Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman are going to talk to him. They're going to meet him face to face. They're going to see if, he could fit in with what they're trying to do. Of course, the New York Giants brought on, I forgot the guy's name, but he's from Detroit, to be kind of like the assistant GM with the New York Giants, and he has experience with Kenny Golladay. Also, Judge has experience with Matt Patricia. So I'm sure they have a background on this prospect, and we're going to have to wait and see how the meeting turns out. But it's definitely much more likely today than it was a day or two ago. And then finally, this from Diana Rossini, to keep you guys informed, that the Bengals actually gave him an offer. It was only 1 year, though. Wide receiver Kenny Golladay has received an offer from the Cincinnati Bengals per sources. I'm told no decision has been made while other teams are interested. One of those teams, the New York Giants, per Dan Graziano, reported the receiver will visit with New York. So we got a 1 year offer from the Cincinnati Bengals. According to Renan, Golladay wants to be in New York. And according to Ian Rappaport, we go back and read the tweet, expected them to bring him in for a visit prior to signing him to a deal. So if you put 2 and 2 together, the Bengals only offered him a 1 year deal. The Bengals are not in near as desperate of a need to bring in a wide receiver, being that they have Boyd, being that they drafted T. Higgins last year. If the Giants come with a substantial offer, and we'll see what it is, I think the Giants have done a good job of letting the market dictate itself. And maybe they get him at a cheaper deal than a lot of people once thought. We'll see how the negotiations go. But if the Bengals only have a 1 year deal on the table, I would only think that the New York Giants won't have to give nearly as much as many people initially thought they'd have to give before this process started. But we're going to have to wait and see how it all turns out. But Kenny Golladay to the New York Giants looks a lot more possible right now than I ever thought it would be. If they get him, it opens up a lot of doors, and it gives Daniel Jones his number one weapon on the offensive side of the football. And ironically enough, today, and we didn't sign him, was the date that we signed Plaxico Burress for Eli Manning. Again, I don't think we're going to sign him tonight. We're going to have to wait and see. But it sounds like if we are, it's going to happen soon. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.